Before I wrote Mindful Parenting, I have authored two other books. The idea of writing a parenting book came to me when I heard the famous quote, "The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice."
The journey has been beautiful because raising a child is like offering a prayer by the couple as a teamwork.
Parenting should be a choice and not a compulsion. Parents, when they come together, should decide.
You are responsible for the future of your child. So in that way, so you need to intervene and you need to involve in a positive and comprehensive manner in the life of children.
पेरेंटिंग का कोई मैन्युअल तो है नहीं, हाँ एक गाइडिंग लाइट है that has to be mindfulness and a lot of love. जी हरी माँ सबको। आज का दिन बहुत शुभ है, आज गुरु पूर्णिमा है। आइए हमारी ऑडियंस का स्वागत है, जुड़ जाइए, हम आ गए एक और सेशन के साथ। I begin with a prayer today that may all our children always remain safe and protected. मैं समय नहीं लूँगी ज़्यादा क्योंकि सर हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं, वो हमारे स्पेशल चीफ गेस्ट हैं, डॉक्टर शशि थरूर. He is going to share his wonderful thoughts on parenting, on being a parent. And I request my mother, Dr. Bedi, to please welcome पूरे दिल से from all our side, because we've all been mindfully, heartfully, soulfully waiting for our 6 o'clock. So, Mommy, please welcome sir.
Thank you so much, Shashi, for joining us. Let me have the honor to call you Shashi.
Of course.
Thank you, Shashi. The whole world knows you. I'm not going to waste time in any way taking to myself. The world knows who you are. And you know who we are present right away. I've already done that little pre-introduction. Let's get going straight away. What do you think about mindful parenting, Shashi? I know time is short. We just have 20 minutes less from you. So we want the best out of you. Go ahead, Shashi. All yours.
Thank you, Kiran. Well, first of all, very good to be with you all, and it's an interesting topic. I don't think I've ever been asked to speak about parenting, but I thought about your discussion today. I'm aware that mindful parenting is all about bringing awareness, attention, and curiosity to your interactions with your children, listening to them, reflecting with them, and choosing not to be too judgmental about their behavior, but rather to gently correct them and move them in the right direction. So it's about empathy, it's about respect, it's about understanding, it's about developing in a careful way boundaries and respecting the child within their own boundaries. Now, all of these things, frankly, were things that I was lucky enough to have in my own parents. I look back with some astonishment as I see stories of children even today who find themselves being forced to try and live out their parents' dreams. And I was marveling at the fact that in such a much earlier generation, that my father was broad-minded enough. I'll give you the examples that came to my mind because these influenced my own style as a parent, which is that when I was in school, I was inconveniently good at taking examinations. And so I kept coming first in everything. whether or not I particularly cared for the subject. And then when we had to stream in class 9 in those days, I opted for humanities. And I'd done extremely well in science up to that point. So my teachers and principal were quite horrified, and they summoned my parents to the school and said, why does our best science student want to take humanities? And my parents, of course, were like every middle-class Indian family, had wanted their child to become a doctor or an engineer, were equally upset. And they said, why don't you want to do this? And the answer I gave them very truthfully was, because I can't stand science. And my father said, don't be silly. Of course, you're very good at science. You've come first throughout. To which my answer was, but if you ask me anything about science the day after I've written the examination, it would have gone right out of my head. All I know is how to take exams. At the end of that, I forget. Whereas if you ask me about literature or history, I can tell you far beyond anything that we were required to know at school, because those subjects fascinate me and I read beyond what I'm supposed to. And I must say, my parents didn't do what most parents even today would still do and say, nothing doing, I know what's good for you. They said, all right, study what you want to study. And then I continued doing well at school, and I ended up with the highest ranks possible, highest marks possible in those days, the ISC examinations, and got a gold medal from the state government and all of that stuff. But at that point, they said, all right, so at least you've got good marks, so go and study economics. With these marks, you'll walk into an economics course, far better, because with that, you can at least do a more remunerative profession than you can with history or literature. And I said, literature, I agree. I don't want to spoil the enjoyment of studying, of reading literature by having to study it. But history is what I really want to do, and not economics. And again, my father was generous enough to let me go. And I did my degree in history. I topped the university. At the end of that, again, they said, with your marks, get into an IIM. That's where you need to go. So very reluctantly, I took the entrance examinations to the 2 IIMs we had in the country. Because again, their hope was I would at least end up with a job that would make some money. The middle class always thinks in those terms of financial security. And once again, a third time now, I ended up coming first for one of the IIMs and second at the other. And then I turned them both down to go off and pursue a PhD, graduate studies, ending up with a PhD in America in international politics. So the result was that when I took each of those steps, if I didn't have parents who believed in understanding the child and allowing the child to follow his or her own bliss, I would have probably been a miserable misfit in whatever else I might have chosen to do. Whereas the life I've led was made possible by the large-heartedness and broad-mindedness of parents, very different from the typical Indian parent. I've often remembered a cartoon I saw in childhood of a big Indian elephant talking to his baby elephant. And the Indian elephant is saying, my son, I want you to achieve everything that I could never achieve. For example, I never managed to fly. Now you can imagine the pressure on that poor baby elephant that his father expects him to learn how to fly. But unfortunately, that's what we see time after time. I travel abroad. I'm received by bright young officers of our embassies. And I ask them, so what have you studied? And they say, oh, they've studied doctoring, medicine or engineering. And I say, why did you waste a medical degree joining the foreign service? You could have studied anything else. And they said, no, sir, that we did for our parents. Our parents wanted us to be doctors. We wanted to be diplomats or government officers. So we said, okay, we'll study make our parents happy, we'll qualify as doctors, but the first opportunity we get, we'll take the UPSC exams and see what happens. If we don't get the UPSC, we can continue to be doctors. I said, you would have been terrible doctors then, because your heart would not have been in it. And instead, you have denied some bright young student a place in a medical college by coming into a profession which didn't need a medical degree. So these are some of my frustrations, but the frustration comes from the fact that parents have forced children to do something that they wanted the children to do, that in their judgment was right for the child, without their actually taking the trouble to understand the child and see what is right for the child. So my own view, my own experience, and my own view, Kiran, is that the most important thing a parent can do is pay attention to their children, understand them, understand what makes them tick, understand what moves their clock, as it were, what makes them happy. And remember that at the end of the day, we are not going to be doing the job we're forcing them to do. They are the ones who have to wake up in the morning not looking forward to how they're going to spend their day, And that would be a terrible curse we visited upon them by forcing our ideas of what's good for them upon them. So understand the child, guide them wisely. Of course, if somebody who's a bright student wants to drop out and live on the street and I don't know, take drugs or play music, maybe at some point you draw the line and say, that I'm not going to agree to. But if somebody has a genuine talent in music and would rather pursue that than anything else, and help them pursue it in a more respectable and professional way. But the kind of help parents can give requires mindfulness in the sense of being attentive to the child, understanding the child, and being responsive to the child's needs, because ultimately the child's happiness should be all that matters to us as parents. I'll stop there as my first answer to your
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful, sir.
Thank you so
Taking
much,
you
Shashi.
back in time, sir. So do you recall how you felt, how your heart felt when your parents believed in you and said, go ahead and take humanities? Do you remember
Well,
this?
yes, I was extremely grateful to my father. My father was a curious combination, because as a young father, he unfortunately believed in corporal punishment. And I got quite a few whacks growing up as the only boy in the house. And many, many years later, I told him, this was so unworthy of you, because those things really hurt me, whereas everything else that you did for me. I'll give you another example of something he did. I was an asthmatic child. So I was frequently confined to bed, unable to go and play with my friends, struggling for breaths, because in those days there were no inhalers or nebulizers, any of those things. You had to take some very strong medicines that made your little heart beat so loud like a drum, and you had to stay up, sitting up in bed so you could breathe. There was nothing else you could do. And in those circumstances, I would read, and of course, when I ran out of books, there was no television, no mobile phones, no computers, laptops, nothing. So what would I do? If I couldn't read, I would write. And so I sat down starting to write at the age of 6. And my father had the vision to actually believe in me, encourage my writing, get my little attempts at very imitative fiction at that time to be typed up by his secretary so I could show them to friends. He really made me believe in the possibility of myself as a writer. And so I said, you did all the right things. Why did you beat me? And with tears in his eyes, he said to me, I didn't know any better. He said, that was the way we were brought up in Kerala, in the village in those days. And that's the only way I knew. But I would never do it. And that too is something that I learned from in a negative way. Because I was beaten as a child, I never, ever raised my hand against my children or anyone else in my entire life. And that's something that sometimes parents do what they think is good for you. And in my father's case, he was right most of the time. But sometimes they can go wrong too. And he had the grace and the large-heartedness to confess his wrong and to admit he repented it. And to my mind, that too was again something that I learned from. So I was blessed. I was extremely blessed in the father I had. And so, yes, Saina, I felt a tremendous amount of sort of heart upliftment that this father, who could be very, very angry when he wanted to be, when he felt the need to be, that on these really important, big decisions in life, that he understood me and supported me.
How nice. How nice indeed.
Yes, sir.
Indeed.
Yes.
Anybody else? I know. Anybody else asking a question from Shashi? Because he will have a few minutes to go.
Yes.
Go ahead. Rahul, you have a question?
Yes.
Ajay has a question. Our parents have a question?
Yes, we all of them have a question, sir, for you. So
Okay, Pawan,
we'll start
go ahead.
Pawan and
Yeah.
Preeti.
First of all, I would thank Shri Shashi Tharoor sir for coming on the screen. First of all, my youngest son, he's just 15, and he follows you a lot. And he told me, Pa, you read book The Era of Darkness and Pax Indica. It's amazing book. So he told me to convey this message to you. That is one very important and profound thing I wanted to share.
Wonderful. There's a good lesson in parenting. Do what your children ask you to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for conveying the message.
One, you shared one beautiful thing now, that parents, they are not always right. They do go wrong. But when they go wrong, how we should handle that as a parent, or how we should understand that as the children?
Well, I think parents are also fallible human beings. The children don't often realize that. We always think of our parents, at least until we're about 8 or 10 years old, we think of our parents as these absolutely superhuman characters who can do no wrong, whom we idealize. I don't know at what stage the onset of their fallibility comes to mind, but then we go through, the pendulum swings the other way, and we spend our teenage years thinking that everything that our parents say and do must be wrong. So, I mean, at some point, the corrective balance will come. But I think for the parents' point of view, what they need to do, Pavan, is to have the large-heartedness to interrogate themselves, to look into themselves and say, this that I did or said was wrong. I should not have done it or said it. And I think that is something which not enough parents do. I think parents are so convinced of that they must seem infallible to their children, that they never acknowledge their mistakes, and they never acknowledge, even if privately they acknowledge to themselves they shouldn't have said or done something, they never acknowledge it to their children. And I think that's wrong. I think children would gain from seeing their parents' capacity to correct themselves, which is a quality that every adult needs also. When the children grow up, they'll need that quality for themselves as well.
And Tarusa, if I can ask one question, since you're running short of time. Your two sons, Kanishk and Ishan, we would all like to know, because as Indians, we idolize our leaders from time of Rajiv Gandhi. Now, we have Shashi Tharoor to look up to. So tell us some parenting tips and techniques that you have used to bring up to these two wonderful children.
No, I must admit I was very, very indulgent. I encouraged them very much to sort of seek excellence. So from a very small age, I would sort of teach them and then quiz them on world capitals, on world currencies. At the age of about 5, they could tell you the capital of every country on earth. It was quite amazing. And people who came home, friends, were always astonished, and they would try and quiz them and find out. I would encourage them to read, and touch wood, that habit still hasn't left them, which is a blessing, because unlike my generation, they did have alternatives. They grew up with everything, television and Nintendo and PlayStation and mobile phones as well. But they were fortunately sensible enough to value that books had their own place in their lives, and they still do. The other thing about them was that I again feel fortunate that they were model children. I couldn't ever get truly angry with them, so I don't actually recall any moment of being angry enough to even want to shout at them or raise a hand, which I never did. But I will say that they made it easy for me. That they were in many ways model kids, and of course I didn't need to steer them very hard towards the choices they made, because they grew up in a house surrounded by books and learning, and that's what they instinctively went for. Now they're both in professions that involve a lot of reading and writing. Ishan is a diplomatic columnist at the Washington Post, and Kanishk is a senior editor at Foreign Affairs magazine. So in many ways, they have led lives that they seem temperamentally suited for, and I still expect even greater things from them, but still within these domains of writing and expressing themselves through words, which is something they excel at.
Ajay, you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah. So how important is listening in parenting?
Very important, Ajay. I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you don't listen, how can you understand? You may be the smartest parent in the country, but just talking to your child without actually listening to them and seeing what upsets them, what makes them work, what makes them tick, would be disastrous. And remember, of course, the child is growing and changing. So listening itself has to change over the years. A very small child will say things that may be charming and delightful, and you may enjoy them, but which may not be very much founded on reason or logic or whatever. And as the child grows older, watching them develop the sense of logic, of consciousness, of reasoning, and their own opinions is an absolute joy. And of course, participating in that by engaging them in conversation, making them question their own ideas, is extremely important. Of course, if the children are lucky, there are two parents involved, and certainly there may be issues on which you and your wife don't have the same view. on a certain issue. I mean, I remember on religion, for example, where I said I sort of pray every day, and my wife at the time didn't, and as they were studying science and so on, one of my sons particularly was rather enamored of the idea that everything could be explained rationally, and therefore he also disdained religion. And I remember trying to talk to him and reason with him, but never tell him that you are wrong. That is not the way. Listen to what he has to say. Be patient, understand their arguments, and then explain from your own point of view why you think that their analysis may be incomplete, and what are the other things they have to think about before they come to such a definitive conclusion. And I remember some of those conversations as being very valuable. I think that having seen my kids as fathers, and that too, they live in America where they don't have that much help, so they have to be very hands-on themselves. And I too brought them up in places like Singapore and Geneva, and then in New York, where again a lot of parenting is one-on-one. You're also helping feed them, and you're also walking them to school, and you're also talking to them on the way. I used to taking the kids to school every morning was my job, and I used to be delighted by the conversations we would have, initially walking to the school bus stop, and then finally when they got a little bigger, walking all the way to school together. It was a tremendous bonding period, and that involved a lot of listening. And my sons asked some of the smartest questions. I remember thinking when I was dealing with the civil war in the former Yugoslavia for the United Nations, I got smarter questions from my 7 turning 8-year-old son about the war, about the causes of the war, and about what was going on and why people were doing what they were doing to each other than I got from many diplomats or many journalists. And for me, this awareness and the satisfaction I had in knowing that I would learn from my children is something that I've always treasured. And even to this day, they're very, very much older now, and their parents themselves. My one lament is how far away they are from me. Of course, we have WhatsApp and email and phone calls, but it's never quite the same thing. And I would love to have been able to talk to them face to face every day. So there's something to be said for the joint family in India. Those of you who are able to keep your adult children near enough to talk to them every day, you're very lucky.
So you're a very loving grandfather also.
That too, absolutely. Yes, I have 3 grandchildren whom I don't see nearly enough of. But they're all 3 so small that it's not yet time for any serious conversations. When that comes, I hope I'll see more of them.
We wish you a lot of loving times with the family, sir. We wish you all the very best.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you for giving us your time.
So
The memento can be given to sir. Yeah.
A 12-year-old has made this for you. His name is Mahadevan.
Rahul will give it to you in person. This is made by Rahul.
Oh, wow. All right. Somewhat old picture, but very nice. Thank you. Very super.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Thank you, Shashi.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Warmest
Thank you.
regards. Thank you.
Wish you the best.
Thank you. I think that was extremely heartful. He's really shared his heart with us. Ajit sir,
It's a perfect treatise on summation and treatise on parenting, isn't it, Ajay?
Yeah, very true. Actually, I would like to express my heartiest gratitude to Dr. Shashi Tharoor for graciously accepting our invitation to join our Mindful Parenting session. It is an honor to have such an esteemed personality sharing his insights and wisdom with all of us. It was through his enlightening book, Nehru, The Invention of India, that I discovered the depth of his intellectual prowess and his profound understanding of Indian history and politics. His ability to articulate complex ideas with clarity and passion truly captivated me and deepened my admiration for his contributions to literature and public life. Beyond his professional achievements, Dr. Tharoor is a devoted parent who encouraged his children, Kanishk and Vishant Tharoor, to pursue their passions in writing and journalism, resulting in their successful careers, as he explained here today, in this field. This demonstrates his understanding of the importance of nurturing and supporting children's aspirations. I would like to thank you, Kiran Bedi ma'am, Saina ji, Praveen, who could not be here, then Rahul Nishwar, my friend, and our guest parents, Pawan and Preeti Surana. Over to you, Saina ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that very heartfelt expressed thoughts.
Now can we chat with Pawan and Preeti and find out what brought them here? Why have we picked them up? Let's ask them. Why have we got them? What's made them smart parents?
We request Mummy and Daddy to share their thoughts, and we'll be joined by their very beautiful, sweet, I've said beautiful.
We might like to bring Dhruv in. We might like to bring Dhruv in because Dhruv is the reason we chose you both. Because we saw Dhruv. There you are. Would you tell us, Dhruv? Would you sit down and tell us what's made your parents so special for you?
I think it all comes down to how they've conditioned me while I was growing up. One of the fundamental reasons I'm what I am today is because when I was a 13-year-old, they looked at me as a 13-year-old, and while I'm a 21-year-old, they still look at me as a 21-year-old. So I think it's about renewing perceptions, as our beloved Mahatria would always say, that the way you renew perceptions towards your child, like that means a lot to the child, and it builds the bond very, very strong. So all my gratitude to them. Yeah.
No, give us one instance which made the difference, became a turning point. Come on, tell us something very smart.
I think 3 years back when I had written a book, I had co-authored this book called Unlocking the Courses of Life. I had even gifted that to you while I came to Delhi. That incident, while I launched it, it was a very breakthrough moment for us as a family, where they just had this perception that, okay, he's not a kid anymore, and they could just welcome me as an adult, and it means so much to be on this end and to receive all this grace. So yes, that would be it.
And tell us, how did you get your value system?
It all comes down to Mahatria, and I'm sure you are also connected to him. And I don't know what to tell when it comes to Mahatria, but it's just that we have to represent and share him with the world. And I think I'm very grateful to my mother, who's introduced me to the path, and I think life has never been the same again. So my value system comes from there.
No, tell us your story. When your mummy used to go for the satsang of Mahatria, and what used to happen? Come on, you, Preeti, you tell me.
I would like to share on that. I mean, he was just 6 or 7 years old when we used to go to, every Sunday we used to go to satsang. And we used to go there, sit, and satsang used to start and he used to sleep. He just used to sleep for 2 hours, and satsang gets over, we have to wake him up, and while returning in the car, we used to ask him, why did you sleep? You didn't listen to anything. And he told, you ask me anything, I will tell you. And whatever we ask, you tell me what. He shared at least 2 values what Mahatria shared today. And he was very clear, and the statement was very on dot what the way Mahatria explained, and he explained the same. We were amazed to hear that even though he was sleeping, and he's still able to, his senses were so on, and he was able to explain it. And I'm sure it's a miracle for us, the whole family. We've been growing, and we've always gratitude comes from there.
How old was he? How old was Dhruv at that time?
6 or 7 that time.
So the message is from your lesson is that if the children of that age are introduced to spiritual living, value-based living, value-based listening, it makes all the difference. Am I right?
Yes. And
so after that, when did he stop sleeping in the satsang?
He stopped sleeping. I'll share one small incident that we were not on the station, and it was raining heavily, and he called us in the morning around 5:30, and he told, Pa, it's raining, how will I go for satsang? I told him, you carry this much cash, you get down, you whatever vehicle, auto or taxi, whichever, those days Ola was not there, you get into it, you reach there. And he reached around 6:30, 7 o'clock, the session starts. He was drenched. He was just 8 years or 9 years that time. And that was the eye-opening session for him also, and for us also again, that at this age he he had got himself aligned to the path, and Maitreya took session on him for 2 hours, telling that if he can be aligned to this path of spirituality, why not? It is just a number actually. Why not? Anybody can do it, and that is the age. And he's reached 21. I mean, he can explain us on parenting actually.
Why I got Saina, I'll explain to you why did I get Dhruv and the family together, both Pavan and Preeti, because I came across this young man Dhruv, and very value based, very ethical, very emotionally very balanced, very helpful, and very well mannered, very well behaved. I just came across him. They're running a school, and I went back to the source, and the source was early satsang from the age of, and the right kind of listening, right value based listening. So it was not anything metaphysical. I didn't find any blindness or metaphysical. He was only talking about good behavior, being a great human being with right kind of ideas and positivity in her. So I think that's what made us let's bring Pavan and Preeti together to find out how could he produce a son like Dhruv. So that's a background, friends. I thought we could, just as Ajay was very keen that we have Shashi Tharoor with us, and so was Rahul Eshwar. I was very keen in Saina to have Preeti and Pavan with us to let people listen and hear that when you take children to such places at such a young age, you are letting them listen themselves without preaching. There was no preaching, there was no teaching. It's only listening, as Ajay asked Shashi Tharoor, listening. So I think that was the key. He was listening and yet and imbibing, and today he's living. So that's it. We got a great teacher in Maitreya. Okay, back to you, Sana.
Something coming to my mind, Pavan and Preeti. And I think it's a question for all of us to think about as parents. एक तो मन में ये आ रहा है that you did not force anything on Dhruv. You let him take his time and you let him blossom at his own pace. And you did not hold anything against him. That's one. The other thing, beta, I want to ask you, Dhruv. Now let's see something coming from a child's perspective. It's very important for parents to believe in their children. Because if you don't, it creates a lot of self-doubt in a child. And it pushes the child back. And the child takes a lot of time to recover. I think it's the greatest duty, sacred duty for a parent, to believe in your children and help them blossom and fight the self-doubt, because anyways there's so much of noise coming from outside. So beta, Dhruv, how important has been that self-belief that your parents have put in you?
I think that's a wonderful question. Reiterating as to what the question is going to be about, but I think the answer would be that the self-belief has become so much to a level where consciously, subconsciously in the parenting that they've done, the self-belief has gone so high that what they have done to me as parents, I want that to become a baseline, at least in my parenting, that anything that I want to do in parenting with my partner, I want that to just become a baseline. And right now it's a benchmark. If they're at this platform, I feel it's a parenting that the world would love to cherish through me. And yes, that would be my goal. That would be my ambition to. I would say, you put it this way, where I want to become 10% of what my parents have parented me into. But I think I'll look at it this way, that I want to become minimum 100% of what they've done to me, and then take it from there on.
ये बहुत बड़ी बात है जो आपने बोली है. I think Pavan and Preeti, this is the greatest melody you could hear coming from your child.
Melodious.
This is the greatest melody.
You know what? Rahul Eshwar has a small boy. How old is your son, Rahul?
He's 6. He's in the first standard. Yes.
Tell us about him. He's a naughty boy. He's always with you.
Yeah, and I'll share an incident with Kiran Pedi ma'am itself. So we were, as parents, we always tell to showcase their talent. So I was telling Yag, his name is Yag, to sing. and in front of Kiran Bedi ma'am. We all adore her, but he being a little child, he doesn't know. He said, "No, I'm not in a mood to sing." So Kiran, and I was very offended. And Kiran Bedi ma'am said, "This is how a child should be. He should have his own free will." And after some time, he came back and sang for Kiran Bedi ma'am. See, this is how you encourage. You cannot push your child to do something, but they have their own time and all. And one more thing, I would like to note, especially I would like to offer that great pranam to Kiran Bedi ma'am, Saina ji, Ajay Kumar ji is. Shashi Tharoor sir perhaps might be the most vociferous speaker that we have, and he hasn't spoken on parenting too much. So that means that much important of a topic is parenting. That is yet to be explored in a very big way, and Shashi Tharoor sir is speaking on parenting for the first time. So that means that topic has yet to be inspired and enlightened in our society's mind in a bigger way. So I think great idea. The very idea of mindful parenting is awesome. And as parents, it was a learning experience for me too. I was carefully listening to Tharoor sir, making him say the world capitals regarding his child. And I decided at that point of time, I'll go back and also tell my son to learn about these capitals, so that would be a good example.
Rahul ji, this space, mindful parenting, is about that. I think as parents, we are all one. We can all have our own ideologies, our own philosophies, our own way of looking at life. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine, because we're all different and unique. But as parents, we all are one. And we all want the world to be a better place and a safer place for our children. So this is that space where we're all coming together as just parents who love our children together. All our children are our children.
We have
So
Ajay.
yes,
Saina,
Ajay.
Ajay has lovely 2 children, very bright children, very talented. Ajay, you tell us what made them so talented.
Yeah, I think the question I asked Dr. Tharoor about listening, I think it's very, very important as a parent that we should listen to our children, and I think that has contributed to their inner development. If we don't listen to them carefully, they will find out that we are not listening actively to the conversation. So I think listening is a very, very important thing in parenting that I believe has helped my children in their development.
सर, लेकिन आपने एक बहुत अच्छी बात बोली है, being a parent of the present time. Now इस listening में वो भी included है, because जो पहले का हमारा school of thought था और आज का जो हमारा view है, so आप उसको कैसे balance करते हैं? How do you balance that, being a parent of the present time?
Can you repeat, Sanaji?
How do you balance your thoughts, which you've grown up with, and being a parent of the present times?
Yeah, I think during our time, like as a child, our parents believed in a different value systems. So for them, maybe listening was not always the way that we wanted, or we we listen to our children the same way. We couldn't expect the same reaction from our parents, also the kind of value systems that our parents had and we have. Technology has changed, the pace of life has changed. We don't have enough time to listen to our children, but our parents had time. Still, when we went to them, sometimes they said they are busy. They had their own reasoning for not listening to us. So we, as parents, from our experience, what our parents did not do to us, maybe we bold as parents, we started listening to our children. We started showing more empathy. Today, the concept of management has changed. The same way the concept of leaders have changed, and also the concept of parenting has changed. So I think it's 2 different time frames. So it's very difficult to compare how we grew up and how we, at our time, how our children grew up.
Can I ask Dhruv? Dhruv, tell us the difference as you see in your friends. your upbringing, how do you find it different with your friends? Can you compare?
Yes. So while I was studying in Indore and then Bangalore for college, I eventually realized that for them, coming out of the house was release in terms of making the choices that they want to take. And it might not be humble choices as well. But in parenting, I understood that the way my parents have parented me is that they share their opinions as friends, that this is what I think is right for you and this is what I think is wrong for you. But to realize that this magical ingredient, which I've realized, that if you give the child a choice, that you make a decision, because end of the day you're an individual as an own, that makes all the difference. And of course, having a guru in life, that makes all the difference. But I felt they were not given the freedom of choice which they had to execute once they left home, and choicelessly then they probably indulge into habits or anything that's unpleasant. But I think it all comes down to, if you give the child the choice that they have to make, but share your views on it. So the child reacts in a very responsible way, I would say.
Preeti, how does it feel listening to him? Preeti, how does it feel? How does it feel when he calls you mummy, when they both call you mummy? It keeps you going, right? That word, mummy.
It's very heart touching, when he calls me ma. So the only thing is, when he enters house, he leaves house, he's like ma, ma, ma. So that really, makes me feel really proud, and I'm blessed to have such a wonderful child in my life. And I really believe that what you magnetize in life, that whatever we magnetize in life, we are because what we magnetize today. If we magnetize abundance, we definitely deserve abundance, and we are designed for abundance. So this we are the child of Almighty God, and we should deserve abundance in water.
Get some water. Get some water. Get some water. We are right here for you. We are going to listen.
we deserve, our children deserve abundance in all the forms, like abundance in terms of health, or abundance in wealth, and yes, definitely abundance in today's term. I feel when the one thing, very right thing we did in our life is putting them into the right path, the spiritual path, getting connected to the universe, where they don't need friends or parents. The fences are the spiritual fences, always surrounded around them.
Rahul, tell us about your little boy. What kind of questions he asks, and how do you deal with them?
And the curiosity, I believe youngsters or the young children will have their curiosity, and it's up to us that we point out the right direction. I was very inspired by Pawanji and Preetiji, who rightly pointed out that angle of spirituality. You can call it existential intelligence, you can call it spirituality, you can call it any term of your choice, because many people may differ on the term. But a life intelligence that a person should have, an existential intelligence that a person should have, is very important. That kind of a spiritual orientation, a higher orientation, is lacking in many of our students today. Many parents even find it very fashionable that they don't go for such a kind of satsang, or they don't understand the value of it. So I believe that's a very important part. And Kiran Bedi ma'am, once when she came to UAE for a program, also pointed this out. This kind of orientation should be there. They should be good with sports. They should be good with all the subjects. They should be good with arts. But there is a higher self. You can call a rose by any other name will be as sweet. So you can call by any other name, but that aspect of spiritual orientation is important. And I believe all the parents will listen to them and understand the significance. Especially our children needs to be oriented in that way. That will give us a sense of being a guru or a mentor or a guide. That's the most important aspect. And I would like to know from Kiran Bedi ma'am, since we were talking in our office, Saina ma'am is calling Kiran Bedi ma'am mommy with such affection. We can listen to that kind of warmth. So tell us something about Kiran Bedi ma'am's parenting style.
Don't do that. I'm looking at conscience alarm. I think what is important is we are looking at a conscience alarm. How do we raise the conscience alarm in our children? Because then that is always with you. Conscience alarm. Listen to it. I think the moment you start training people or training the youth or the children, okay, quietly sit and listen to your own self. Are you doing the right thing? Is there a better way to do it? If you give them a chance, I think that's listening asking them, training them to listen to themselves. And the inner voice within is called the conscience alarm.
Ajay sir, a question coming to my mind for you, sir.
Yeah.
You've written this book, and a lot of thought has gone into this book. Let's, through this platform, collectively tell all our parents that it's so important to pray for your children. And it's so important for your children to see their parents pray, but not just in thought, but in thought, word, deed. It's important for our children to see us pray like that. And sir, ek baat I want to ask. You need a lot of courage to also pray and then keep surrendering the destiny of your children at the divine feet. Because after a certain point, we as parents can't control the destinies of our children. So we don't give up on them. We can't give up on them. But how important is that prayer when we go on every moment praying and surrendering the destiny of our children at the divine feet?
Who are you asking?
Ajay sir and then
Ajay.
Preeti and
Yeah, I think parenting, in my opinion, I mean, it's not just one parent, right? It's two people make together as parents. So parenting is also a partnership. Why I say it's partnership, because it's a shared responsibility in decision making. It involves mutual support between both parents. Each parent brings unique perspectives, experiences, and strengths to the table, which can greatly benefits the child's overall development. So when it comes to parenting, it is very important to identify, to understand the other person's parenting style as well. So one parent may have a difference, as Dr. Shashi Tharoor mentioned, that one person might be against praying, and the other person will be for praying. So how do you balance this? That is very important. And how do you convince other person? So it's not about who is right. It is always about what is right. So you should have. I mean, it's not about also compromise. One should have enough evidence and data to put on the table, to debate, to discuss, and then come out with what is right for your child. And this is the only way I think you can be the parent of the person.
Gee, thank you, sir. Preeti, your thoughts? How do you go on praying, both of you collectively surrendering the destiny of our children at the divine feet?
So yes, I strongly believe in introducing at the very early stage to our kids to happiness and celebrations. So happiness is not just what do you say? It's the beginning of the life. They are not a concept actually, which stays with and within you. Happiness and celebrations are which really show us the way of divinity. A person who is a happy soul, divinity waits at the door of a happy soul. So we should always guide our children in the right manner to always, whatever it is, in the midst of challenges, all the challenges, let us teach our children happiness. Let us add I in happiness, not Y. So I really feel
I would share one more beautiful thing about it. As I continue to Preeti, where there is happiness, love is there. But you're not sure whether happiness is there in love or not. So a person who's happy, love is always there. You see, me buying something very beautiful thing for my son is love. But whether he need it or not, whether that makes him happy or not, that's more important. So whenever I used to buy, I always think of buying something very special thing before he dreams of. So, but he used to play with that toy for a day, maximum for a day. Next day, something new. So I changed that's buying for him is love for me, love towards my son. But whether he's happy or not, he's happy for just for a day and then it's over. Then I decided I will take along with me to buy what I want to give him. And I used to give him an option of 2 or 3, and then in that option he used to select that one, and that made him more happier than what I used to buy him. So happiness is very important in a kid, and the longer happier you are, the bestest best you will manifest. The bestest best you will manifest. For me, I understand gratitude is very important. We should inculcate this habit at a very childhood time. I'll just share one small example.
Please, please.
My dad is having his dinner. He is asking chef कि एक रोटी ला दो. He's just commanding that एक रोटी ला दो. He's just serving it over. I am also there. My son also is there. See, anyways, if I command, he has to serve me. But I told him, Bhaiya ji, ek roti la doge kya? So he's coming with one roti, and then he's asking me, Bhaiya, aur kuch laun kya karke? A little difference. See, my dad is just commanding, and I am asking. Anyways, he has to serve me, but I'm telling you, ek roti la doge kya karke? The son is, children, they don't listen. They observe and absorb. They don't listen. I repeat, they observe and absorb. Now the kid is watching me. He is observing me also. He is observing elder people at home also. And he will exactly absorb the best thing, what it has come. He saw the chef coming and serving and asking some more to me. So that's one thing we should always understand. We should live an example for our kids.
That's true.
जी आपका
And
ये
happiness is also not about doing whatever they ask for, right?
Pardon, I didn't get you, sir.
जी अजय सर
Happiness is also not about whatever they ask for, giving whatever they ask for, right?
Yeah.
I would share one more beautiful thing on this. During parenting, I've learned to say no without using word no. Learn to say no without using word no. Either you give alternative option, or one more incident. He just for a day he took a flight and came to Chennai when he was studying in Indore. He just took a flight without informing us. He was just 16 years old. He took a flight and came down to Chennai without informing us, just for a day, less than 24 hours. So there was a lot of question, and सर पे बच्चे को इतना सर पे चढ़ा के रखा है, पूछा भी नहीं और वो आ गया करके. So okay, I listened to everyone. Then I didn't tell him no, you shouldn't come. I told him that this is a budget of travel budget for a year. How much ever time you want to come, you can come. So I didn't tell him no. He also understood. I didn't tell him no, and he followed the system. So it's keeping their thought and their needs in mind. You'll have to just little present in a polished way so that they understand what they want.
That's right. Correct.
पर सब कुछ आपने बहुत प्यार से किया है. आपने सब कुछ बहुत डेलिकेट हैंड्स के साथ करा है. आपने सब कुछ उसकी सेल्फ एस्टीम को बिना हर्ट करे करा है. यू गिवन हिम, पंजाबी में कहावत है रंज के दिया है, which means आपने दिल खोल के उसको प्यार दिया है. एंड माँ करे हमेशा
You're
बना.
training him to be responsible. Basically, it's a sense of responsibility at such an age. It's taking charge, taking responsibility. I think that's important. The earlier we bring into a young child sense of personal responsibility and care, I think it makes a lot of difference.
जी जी
You brought in personal responsibility when you told him the budget. And now he's responsible. How does he want to run the budget?
जी. Any other thoughts you would like to share before we go to Ajay sir for what he's felt today? जी Pavan, Preeti. जी
First of all, thank you all for blessing us and allowing us to come to this fantastic month, I would say. And heartful gratitude to our Guru Mahatriya. He's been a blessing to us, and we've been growing since we have aligned with him. He has always taught us one beautiful thing, because today's world, it's growing. When it's grow, everything matters. And very beautiful, profound statement he taught us. He He had sown a seed in us. Money can do little. Money can do little only. But money can do great thing through us. Money can do little, but money can do great things through us. What money can do, only money can do. So it is human beings' moral responsibility to become rich and do their karma right. This is a beautiful seed sown in our mind when we were growing at an early age. The importance of money also is important, and the other side, if you have abundance, then there is a way to share with the world, and that is what makes us a beautiful human being. And that is a gift from us by living a good human life. That is a gift from us to God, who has given us this human being life.
Dhruv, I know you're doing a kangaroo school. You're teaching, bringing in children, playway children. What kind of attitude are you seeing in parents when they're bringing their children for early training? Go ahead, Dhruv.
Yes.
Tell us about your kangaroo and the experience you're having with the parents.
So we have started out with just 12 kids, and I think I've individually met all the parents, the mother and the father. And one of the beautiful approaches right now, I feel, I'm not a parent yet, but I can definitely say this, is that while I interact with parents on an everyday basis, they've become very conscious in their thinking, at least, that academics is not education. Academics is a part of education. So they've individually, personally told me that, don't push the child in academics. And that's how we've been operating. Is if a child likes to watch the sun the entire day, we let them watch the sun the entire day. If they like to do art, we let them explore forms of art. But this is something that's beautiful, that's happening out there in the world. I think we can all become better parents, but I want to highlight what's right that's happening is that they're slowly changing their conditioning, their perspective, that, let the child explore the way they want. So that's what I want to share.
That's the new generation. That's the new change. Go ahead, Sana.
Thank you. Ji, sir, Ajay sir, how did you feel today?
Yeah, it's a great learning. And I also learned a lot. Maybe version 2 of my book, more valuable insights that I learned from.
Your second book is getting ready. That means, we are getting ready for second year also. Mindfulness.
And during the launch of this book, if it is there in Dubai, make sure that we know about it, and we definitely will fly down to receive one.
Sure.
Now we catch hold of this. We will now need a plane to get us all there, because there is so much by end of 1 year. Sir will have to get all of us to Abu Dhabi. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Second part 2 of your book.
Yeah,
Yes.
we greatly appreciate your valuable contribution and the profound insights you shared about parenting, all of you. Building upon our previous discussions, I firmly believe parenting is a partnership where both parents play crucial roles in raising and nurturing their children. Effective advocacy, I think that also plays a significant role in revolving differences and reaching consensus in parenting. As I told in the earlier discussion, when there is a difference of opinion, it's not about compromise, because you're compromising the life of your child. So advocacy plays a very, very important role in parenting. It is always about what is right. It is essential to create an environment where both parents can express their opinions, provide evidence or reasoning to support their views, and engage in constructive discussions. Another thing, the question I asked Dr. Tharoor, the greatest quality a parent can possess is that of being a leader. And at the core of effective leadership lies the invaluable trait of listening. It is often said that even in the highest positions of authority, the ability to lend an ear and truly hear from others, that's very, very essential. In the same way as parents assume the role of leaders within their families, they too should embody the virtue of being attentive listeners. By genuinely listening to their children's thoughts, concerns, and experiences, parents create an environment of trust, understanding, and open communication. Actually, I would like to conclude before concluding. I would like to read a few lines from third chapter of our book, Mindful Parenting. This is about parenting styles, a journey, a walk, a race, guiding the little ones in the right direction to their destiny and what it holds. So it talks about the journey of parenting. It is very essential to recognize that each parent may have their own unique parenting styles. When it comes to parenting styles, it's important to remember that each parent may have their own unique approach. Nothing is wrong and right. It is uncommon for parents to have different parenting styles, which can sometimes lead to challenges in finding common ground. Some of the examples of how one parent may exhibit a different style from the other one is about authoritarian versus permissive, attachment parenting versus tiger. All of this you can buy the book and read from chapter 3 of the book. So these examples highlight the potential variations in parenting styles within households, which can sometimes lead to differences in approaches and perspectives. So it is crucial for parents to communicate openly, respect each other's views, and work together to find a balanced and consistent approach that benefits the well-being and development of their child. Thank you. Over to Sainaji.
Ji,
Thank you
wonderful,
so much.
sir. Thank you for your thoughts. Rahul
Thank
ji,
you so
how
much.
did you feel?
Thank you, Surana. Thank you, Preeti and Pawan.
Rahul
and
ji,
Dhruv.
anyone,
Thank you,
one
Rahul.
line, anything?
It was learning for me, let all parents like me. I believe a parent is only as old as the child. So, the parent will have to learn. So it was a learning for me. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. Mummy,
Thank you, Rahul, for dropping in. Thank you,
जी,
Rahul.
आप जाते कुछ कहेंगे?
Dhruv wants to share something.
Dhruv, yes, please, beta. Yes.
I think one message that I would just want to share on behalf of the realization that I've had, that my parents have always parented me this way, that they've always thought for and not against. So they've always taught me to think for, whether it's situation, people, dreams, and not against anyone. So I think I'm glad that way. I'm grateful. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. We give you the last word.
Yes.
You
Thank
were a
you.
very special guest, a discovery for us. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Conclude करें. We take leave.
Thank you.
हमारी ऑडियंस का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया जो सब जुड़े हैं हमारे साथ. And बस ये दुआ है, may all our children feel very loved. May they all feel very very loved.
Thank you.
जय थारी माँ.
Have a great life ahead.
मिलेंगे आपको अगले महीने. Thank you. Heartfelt gratitude, and thank you to Dr. Tharoor again. Thank you. जी, जय थारी.